I never thought I'd see the day my neighbor called the cops on me, over chickens and goats. But the moment that patrol car pulled up and Karen shouted, "Finally, they've come to arrest him," I knew this wasn't just some petty feud anymore. What Karen didn't know was that she was seconds away from the most humiliating moment of her life. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's Michael Turner. I'm 38 and I live in a quiet suburb outside of Dallas, Texas. At least it used to be quiet until Karen Wilson moved in, or should I say, until she got herself elected president of our HOA. If you've ever met a Karen, you already know the type: fake, polite, obsessed with rules, power-hungry, and always convinced she's the smartest person in the room. I bought my property because I wanted space, some peace, and the freedom to raise a few animals. Nothing crazy, just some hens, a rooster, and a couple of goats. My neighbor's kids loved coming over to pet them. Honestly, it gave the block a kind of charm, something wholesome. But Karen didn't see it that way. One morning while I was tossing feed to my hens, Karen stormed into my yard like she was leading a crusade. She didn't even say hello, just jabbed her finger at me and shouted, "Your rooster is terrorizing this neighborhood and those goats are disturbing the peace." I laughed at first. I thought she was joking, but then she announced I had been summoned to the HOA board, like it was some kind of royal decree. Except here's the thing, I wasn't even part of their HOA. My property sat just outside the boundary lines. Their rules didn't apply to me. That didn't stop Karen. Later that day, she stuffed an official-looking paper into my mailbox. It had big, bold red letters across the top. Violation notice. According to her, I was guilty of excessive animal disturbances. I skimmed it, rolled my eyes, and tossed it into the goat pen. One of my goats happily chewed it up, probably the best use that notice ever had. But Karen wasn't letting go. The next morning I caught her at the fence phone in hand, recording my rooster's crow like she was gathering evidence for a murder trial. She yelled, "This is going straight to the board." I waved at her with my coffee mug and went about my day, but I could feel the tension brewing. And she didn't stop there. She started gossiping with neighbors, spinning stories about how my illegal farm was destroying property values. She shoved more violation notices into my mailbox, each one crazier than the last caps lock rants about sanctions and removal. The breaking point came when she dragged me into an HOA meeting. I figured, fine, I'll go set the record straight once and for all. Maybe if I explained the facts, she'd back off. The meeting was a circus. Karen strutted in like she was Queen of England. She glared at me as if she'd already won. When it was my turn, I calmly explained I wasn't part of the HOA. Their rules didn't apply to me. I wasn't breaking any laws. Simple, right? But Karen slammed her folder shut and declared, "You have 1 week to get rid of your livestock or you'll regret it." At that moment I realized logic didn't matter. Karen didn't want peace. She wanted control. Act 2. Escalation and turning point. A week later, right on schedule, Karen showed up at my door. Her hair was frazzled, her face beet red, her fingers stabbing the air like a prosecutor. "You think you're above the law. You think you can ignore the HOA. Well, today, you face consequences." I leaned against the doorframe, calm as ever, and told her again, "I'm not breaking any law, Karen. You're wasting your breath." But reasoning with Karen was like teaching a goat to play chess, pointless and exhausting. She didn't want logic. She wanted a show. And she gave the neighborhood a show. Right there on my porch, she whipped out her phone, dialed 911, and barked into the receiver like she was reporting a bank robbery. "Yes, I need immediate police assistance. There's a man harboring illegal livestock, disturbing the peace, endangering the community." I almost laughed. My goats were literally behind me, nibbling on grass, looking as dangerous as a couple of lawn ornaments. Karen hung up, smirked, and folded her arms. She was absolutely convinced she had me cornered. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the street. Curtains parted, doors cracked open. Half the block came out to watch. Parents, kids, joggers. Everyone wanted to see the farmer finally taken down by the HOA queen. And that's when, for the first time in this whole mess, I felt my chest tighten. What if she was right? What if there was some obscure ordinance I didn't know about? What if the cops sided with her? Suddenly I imagined the headlines. "Local man arrested for barnyard disturbance." I started doubting myself. Maybe I should have just sold the animals. Maybe it wasn't worth the stress. For a moment, I genuinely wondered if I'd screwed up by standing my ground. But then I remembered something. My wife. Sarah isn't just my partner. She's a deputy sheriff in this county. She knows the laws better than anyone, and she'd already assured me I was doing nothing wrong. I clung to that thought like a lifeline. So when that patrol car rolled up, my fear melted into something else entirely: anticipation. The car door swung open, and out stepped none other than Sarah herself. Badge, shining uniform, crisp sunglasses catching the sunlight. She walked with that cool, commanding confidence that made people step aside without a word. Karen, still oblivious, clapped her hands like a kid at a parade. "Yes, officer, arrest him immediately. He's a criminal." But Sarah didn't even glance at her. She walked straight up to me, locked eyes, and with a smirk stretched across her face, she pulled me into a tight embrace and kissed me. The entire neighborhood froze. Karen's jaw dropped so far she could have swallowed a watermelon whole. Kids dropped their bikes. Neighbors gasped. Even my goats seemed to stop chewing. For the first time since this started, I was the one holding the power. Act 3, the climax and justice. Karen shrieked, "What the hell are you doing? You're supposed to arrest him." Sarah finally turned to her, calm as ever, and said, "Arrest him? For what?" Karen waved her crumpled violation papers like sacred scrolls. "The livestock. They're loud. This is a residential area. He's disturbing the peace." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because last I checked, I live here too, and your midnight gossip sessions on speakerphone are louder than his chickens." The crowd burst into laughter. People actually started nodding, muttering, "She's not wrong." Karen spun in circles, desperate to salvage her dignity, but it was slipping faster than water through her fingers. Then Sarah delivered the final blow. She stepped closer, her voice icy smooth. "Call the police again for nonsense like this, and I'll personally cite you for misuse of emergency services. Keep pushing, and you'll be the one facing court." Karen froze, her eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, just a pathetic squeak. The block erupted in chuckles. Neighbors shook their heads, laughing at the self-appointed HOA tyrant, now exposed for what she really was: powerless. Karen finally stomped away, shrieking empty threats, but no one cared anymore. She wasn't the queen of the block, she was just a deflated balloon wheezing out hot air. And me, I stood there on my porch, calm as ever, watching her retreat. No victory dance, no celebration. Just the quiet satisfaction of seeing justice deliver itself. A closing line. Sometimes the loudest bully in the neighborhood crumbles the fastest when the truth finally shows up.